It's on. President Obama officially kicking off his re-election campaign today. And talk about tough timing. Stocks sliding down as job creation slows down and shoppers pull back. Now cities are calling for more federal stimulus to help bring the economy back. But some here say all the spending is the problem. Are they right? Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Buttner. This is Bulls and Bears. The Bulls and Bears this week, Gary B. Smith, Tobin Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, along with Todd Schoenberger and Stefan Fitch. Welcome to everybody. Gary B., more stimulus? That's the answer?
Brenda, we just don't seem to be learning any lessons here if we're going to get more stimulus. Look, let's go back and review what the Obama administration said. They said that unemployment rate would never go above 8.5%. It went to 10%. By the end of 2010, it was supposed to be below 7.5%. It's not anywhere near there. President Obama says we've created all these jobs, yet the real unemployment factor, including people that have withdrawn from the workforce, is at 15%. In fact, any jobs that we've created, for example, in the green sector, which should have been ripe for jobs since we have so much stimulus, the wind sector alone has lost 10,000 jobs since 2009. If we keep doing this, Brenda, it's going to be more of the same, of course, and we'll keep spiraling downward, not upward.
Well, Stefan, is the problem too much stimulus or not enough?
Well, the problem is Gary, God bless him, is sounding very European right now. We've got a lot of very austere thinkers in Europe, and they've driven those economies into a recession. The fact of the matter is that the bailouts and stimulus that Bush and Obama put in a few years ago prevented a terrible depression. I'm not happy with the job growth, and in fact, I do think more stimulus would be helpful. But I'll tell you what, I would rather have our position than that of Europe, where they've tried austerity and it has been absolutely disastrous. Yeah, I think we could put in some big projects, and Gary, I'm sure you would agree that cutting way back on spending would only make things worse.
Well, Gary, I'm going to let your brother, Tobin Smith, stick up for you, because I know that calling you European, that's a fighting word. Toby, go ahead.
You're not even calling him Irish, for crying out loud. Now, look, one of the biggest issues with Europe was that they lost confidence. Why did they lose confidence? Because they had a financial crash. Because they completely overspent and completely set up a system they couldn't afford and support. Well, guess what? We're right on that same trajectory. $1 trillion a year negative spending is making people come to two conclusions. Number one, we're going to have some terrible inflation down the road. And number two, somebody's going to have to pay for this, and it's going to have to be through higher taxes. So the job creators are the ones who are holding back, and that's what's holding us back. And it's because they see it we're completely out of whack here.
Okay, let's get back to the stimulus issue.
Yeah.
And Jonas, actually, you think that right now we are swimming in stimulus already. It's kind of in the eye of the beholder, isn't it?
Right, and that's why I don't really think we need more of it, because we did have stimulus, more than many other countries. We didn't go into austerity mode, as the other guest said, and we're not in the recession that most of Europe is in right now because of it, which is great. But you don't need to start a new stimulus program when you're not in a recession. We're not in a recession. We're already running huge deficits. Deficits are a stimulus program. Just spending more than you're taking in is a stimulus program. Now, we could bicker about how the money was spent. It probably wasn't very clever. The president didn't do any of these big projects that could have been more job creating, but it's too late now. I mean, that was years ago. You should have started that. So it's over. Let us go. We're doing better than most of the world. Not as well as China, but they had a much bigger stimulus program than we did as a percent of GDP.
Jonas, you're right about that. The president could have done many more things, but here's the bottom line, guys. We are headed into a recession, and we need more stimulus. This is an economy that is desperately in need of organic growth, and it's not there right now. So what else is it going to be, guys? Do you want to have soup lines out there, or do you want the government to get involved in
Do you want the government to spend more money than it is now?
Look here, Brenda, I'm not a big fan of this, but it needs to be done. This economy right now is in desperate need. The jobs report puts us at trending at 1.7% GDP. By third quarter, we will be in a recession. What else are we going to do? We don't have people that are working. They're not spending money. Consumer confidence is down. I mean, I hate to be doom and gloom here, but we need some
You're doing a hell of a job.
Okay, Gary B., go ahead, Mr. European. You take him on.
Well, for Stefan, I can understand his viewpoint, the lefty that he is. But who invited Todd back? That's my question. What happened to him? Look, I think it's a simple equation. You know, Todd makes the point that we should spend more. But I'm not saying the money shouldn't be spent. Why can't the private sector spend it? Look, all we're really doing with stimulus is transferring the money from one group to another. You're assuming, Todd and Stefan, that the government can spend it somehow better or more efficiently.
Well, Brenda,
we've seen. Wait a second. We've seen that it can't with the green sector that I pointed out, with Solyndra and all those others. Cut taxes, for crying out loud, and let the private sector spend the money. The money is there to be spent.
I got it there, Gary B. You're right, but let's look at the quarterly earnings period. Look, you have public companies right now. They're looking at 3% earnings growth. You're right. Let them spend some money. But bottom line is, if they do go out and spend money, then they're going to show negative earnings growth. That's going to hit stock valuations. Look, I'm not a big fan of this either, but something's got to be done. It's clearly not happening from the private sector or from the American consumer. So where else are we going to turn?
Okay, Toby, go ahead.
Well, again, the point is that for job creators like me, we look and say, wait a minute. If I'm going to have this gigantic inflation and this can't stop at some point, I have to do something. I think it's going to be, I'm just going to wait until see something happens. And that uncertainty, that lack of confidence is what is hurting our jobs. And that's because they see this out of control spending.
Jonas?
Again, these were great points like a year and a half ago, but now the proof is sort of there that the countries that didn't cut the spending are doing better than the countries that cut the spending. There's like a dozen country examples of this, all the way from Ireland going to Greece and Italy and France and Germany. They just cut their spending too soon out of the last recession, which was a very big recession. Now, we made mistakes. They weren't very clever spending programs, but the bottom line is we're doing something they didn't do right, and that's why we're not in a recession. So we did an okay job, not a great job, but we don't need more because we're not sliding it apart.
Okay, but Stefan, you say spend more now?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I think I've got a way to do this that might even make Gary happy. He's right. The government has been a poor spender. I've got a suggestion. Ben Bernanke, there are 57 million.
Yeah.
That's right. There are 57 million children between the ages of 5 and 18. We're always talking about how we don't want to borrow from the next generation. Ben Bernanke should write them $17,000 checks and let them spend the the I think they could probably use
I do that every day.
books and green vegetables.
I'm an ATM for my kids. That's not the way to do it. Okay, okay. Let's give Gary B the final word here.
Well, look, I'm a big believer in the private sector. I think that our economy, as opposed to what Joan is saying, is completely different than all the European countries.
Correct.
We do things differently here. That's why stimulus here, withdrawing it, won't be anywhere near as negative as some of my fellow panelists point out.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, go ahead, Todd. You were laughing.
Look, it is. It's going to be bad. Eventually, you have to unwind the balance sheet. It is going to be crippling to the U.S. economy going forward, and you need Americans to stand on their own. It's just not happening.
The states have cut $100 billion in spending, and we're not negative yet.
All right. That's got to be it. Thanks, guys.